Hello, everybody. I have got more to talk about today than I may even have time for. I don't know. Let me adjust this real quick. But let's just get going and see where the winds take us, shall we? This is a story. Let me check my mic. This is a story that I've been wanting to get to, and now I'm finally getting to it. This is just an unbelievable story. Let me just dive into it. This was reported in the New York Post, and the headline reads thusly: Squatters take over 1,200 homes in Atlanta, open illegal strip clubs, and terrorize neighbors. Is this even America? This was written by Mary Kay Jacob, and I want to read a little bit of this to you because this is a problem that is apparently nationwide. It's not just Atlanta. I've heard of these squatter events, if you will, happening in other cities such as Los Angeles and other places. What basically happens is a family owns a home, and let's just say they decide to go on vacation. So they leave their home and they're gone for a week or two of vacation, and when they come back home, they discover that somebody has moved into their home. Their home. Imagine that. You leave your home, you lock it up, you board it up, you get on a plane and you go on vacation. You come back home and somebody else has done moved in. It sounds like the Three Bears, doesn't it? Somebody's moved into your home, and what can you do about it? It's unbelievable to me. But listen to this. Squatters are ruining entire neighborhoods in Atlanta, and police response to evict is so slow, some homeowners have resorted to paying these nuisances to leave. Brazen squatters even opened an illegal strip club on a property they had taken over, one of the 1,200 homes which has been squatted on in the city. This is Atlanta, according to the National Rental Home Council. Quote, "I'd be terrified in Atlanta to lease out one of my properties," unquote, said Matt Urbanski, who manages a local home cleaning company. Urbanski's company cleans out homes for corporate landlords and in some cases has to remove squatters' possessions. Recently, one of his employees was shot after trying to remove intruders from a property. Simon Frost, CEO of a large-scale landlord, Tiber Capital Group, said there have been incidents of unlawful occupants brandishing weapons and threatening neighbors, which affects the safety of neighborhoods and other residents. Evicting squatters in Atlanta, though, is tough, involving negotiating court backlogs and strained police resources. Meanwhile, online listings and virtual real estate agents make it easy for squatters to identify vacant properties to break into. In October, an Atlanta neighborhood found itself at the center of a scandal involving squatters who transformed a home into an illegal strip club, complete with weekend parties and even live horses on the property. The drama unfolded in the South Fulton County neighborhood where four individuals, DeAnthony Maddox, Jeremy Wheat, Kelvin Hall, and Tarash J. Ford, took up residence without permission. Little did the neighbors know that the 4,000 square foot, 5-bedroom home with 3 bathrooms would become a den of illicit activity. The squatters ran the clandestine strip club, held noisy parties, and even organized car races in the streets, ruining the neighborhood for others, according to local reports. They would get live horses. One day they had live horses, one neighbor said. Eventually, a SWAT team was called to clear out the house, and they recovered 2 stolen cars, a stolen weapon, and stolen credit cards from the property, according to the local report. Now, just imagine this, folks. You leave your house. Maybe you just went to work one day, or you went on vacation, or you went to see grandma for the weekend, and you come back home and somebody has moved into your house. Can you even believe this? What would you do? You unlock your door, you walk inside, and you find 4 of these squatters in your house. They've turned it into a strip club. They've got horses outside on the property. What would you do? I know what some of us good old boys would do. Can you feel me? But think about this. And this is not the only story. This is across America. This is a burgeoning problem. I had trouble when I first heard about this, even fathoming something like this happening. It's the brazenness of these people is unbelievable to me. You go home and you come back to your home is your castle. It's sacred. It's where you live. It's your digs. You own it, or maybe you just rent it, but it's yours. You paid for it. Only to find. Can you just imagine how you would feel if you come back home and somebody else has taken up residence in your home? I would be saying to them at least, buddy or buddies, I'm going to count to 3, and when I get to 3, I better be the only man standing in this living room. Now, how does something like this happen? Well, I don't think you have to dwell too long on this to figure this out. You might include the notion of Democrats recently calling for the virtual elimination of the police. You think maybe that's got something to do with it? You think the fact that criminals no longer fear any reprisal, they no longer fear law enforcement any longer? You think maybe that's got something to do with it? There is even a TikTok video of a squatter who is, imagine this, an illegal alien. He has made a TikTok video explaining, it's like a squatter's tutorial. This is how you do it. Here's how you find these places. Here's how you find these houses. And here's how you go in and make that vacant house your very own. Well, when you talk about Fulton County, Georgia, specifically, this is Atlanta, does Fulton County ring a bell with anybody? Who is the district attorney for Fulton County, Georgia? Does anybody know? You should know, some of you. That's right. The district attorney for Fulton County, Georgia is good old Fani Willis. Is it possible, ladies and gentlemen, that good old Fani Willis is maybe placing a little too much priority on her vendetta against Donald Trump and using all of her time and all of her resources to prosecute Donald Trump so that squatters are taking over entire Fulton County neighborhoods to the tune of 1,200 houses? Fanny, darling, maybe it's time for you to clock the hell in and do your job. Folks, I'm telling you, this is unbelievable to me. We just live in bizarro world anymore. And you need to think about this. What if it was you? What if you left home one day and when you came back home, there were squatters in your house? You better think about that now. This was unfathomable, unthinkable heretofore, but now it's a very real possibility. Do you have your home secured? You might want to think about that again. Let me move on and let's go to Ireland. I got some Irish viewers, and you might be able to fill in the gaps on this little story. I'm just going to kind of gloss over it. But the Irish Prime Minister has resigned, apparently in disgrace. The Irish Prime Minister is a man by the name of Leo Varadkar, Varadker. When he took office, I think it was 7 years ago, Leo Varadkar was 38 years old, and he was Ireland's first gay prime minister. When he took office, he also is woke. And old Leo has apparently been trying to transform Ireland into a woke nation, a woke land. But I'm happy to report that apparently Leo's efforts have failed, and he has now essentially been forced to resign his post. And to Leo, on behalf of all the good people of Ireland, I say to you, good riddance, Leo. That was pretty bad, right? Bye, Leo. Go get you a job at Starbucks or maybe a florist or something. You might be better suited there. I don't know. Let me move on to my next story, which has to do, this is just unbelievable to me. Folks, here we go again. We have yet another episode of plagiarism among the faculty at Harvard. This is at least, the third case we've had to talk about? What on earth is going on at Harvard University? You know, Harvard historically has been probably the most prestigious and preeminent university in America. But I don't know if you could say that anymore. You know, just recently, within the last 2 or 3 months, the president of Harvard University had to resign because she had plagiarized. I remember talking about this a couple of months ago. You remember plagiarism used to be a thing. If you plagiarized in college or in high school, if you plagiarized a term paper or you plagiarized a doctoral thesis, you flunked. Not only would you flunk, but in most cases, I would venture to say that you would be expelled, and you should be. But the president of Harvard University had to resign in disgrace because of her plagiarism. But now we have yet another member of the Harvard faculty who has been caught plagiarizing. This appeared in the City Journal, cityjournal.org, written by Christopher Rufo, who writes, Harvard professor Christina Cross is a rising star in the field of critical race studies. Christina Cross earned a PhD from the University of Michigan, secured the support of the National Science Foundation, and garnered attention from the New York Times, where she published an influential article titled The Myth of the Two-Parent Home. Oh, she may not be wrong about that. Cross's 2019 dissertation, The Color, Class, and Context of Family Structure and Its Association with Children's Educational Performance, won a slate of awards, including the American Sociological Association Dissertation Award and the ProQuest Distinguished Dissertation Award, and helped catapult her onto the Harvard faculty. According to a new complaint filed with Harvard's Office of Research Integrity, however, research integrity at Harvard, Cross's work is compromised by multiple instances of plagiarism, including verbatim plagiarism, mosaic plagiarism, whatever that is, uncited paraphrasing, and uncited quotations from other sources. So here we go again. Christina Cross of Harvard University has been busted for another case, yet another case. You know, this isn't plagiarism at Duke's taxidermy school and tax preparation service. This is freaking Harvard University, for heaven's sakes. Plagiarism here, there, and everywhere. It used to be a thing. Evidently, it ain't anymore. You know, if Harvard cared anything about their reputation, don't you think they would pounce on something like this and immediately start doing damage control? But instead, if you recall, when the president of Harvard was busted for plagiarism, the faculty filed in and joined ranks and joined hands and said, no, we support the president. Well, do you now, really? Parents, let me ask you a question. If you're a parent and you have a child approaching the age of entering into college, if they're considering that, what are you thinking? Would you let your child, if they qualified academically, would you let them go to Harvard? And if so, why? Just so they could say that they're a graduate of Harvard? Well, if Harvard is nothing but a bastion of plagiarism, do you think maybe that cuts into their reputation of being prestigious? I mean, if I'm a potential, let's say that I'm the senior partner at a law firm, and I've got a graduate of Harvard Law School coming to interview for a position in my firm, and I look on his resume and see he's a recent graduate from Harvard, I got to tell you, it wouldn't carry the same weight with me as it may have, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Would you want your child going to Harvard? If so, why? Because they are cool with plagiarism? Maybe you want to look at another avenue, I don't know. But this is unbelievable. This institution, it was once a religious school. Did you know that? It was once like a training ground for American ministers, just like, Yale and a lot of the Ivy League schools started as religious institutions. Maybe you should send Johnny to, welding school or truck driving school. In the long run, he might make more money. He sure wouldn't leave with a whole boatload full of debt, I'll tell you that. So Harvard might not be a school you'd want Johnny to consider. I'm just saying, because I don't think they're quite as prestigious as perhaps they once were. All right, let me move on to a story that comes from Minnesota. Minnesota. How many of you have heard about this? This appeared in a website called The American Experiment, and it was written by a man named Bill Glahn, Glhan, and his headline reads thusly: A new Communist Party is set to launch in Minneapolis next month. He writes that he just had a press release arrive in his email this week from an outfit calling themselves the Revolutionary Communist of America, RCA. The local RCA chapter is announcing a local rally early next month in support of the national launch of the party. Quote, RCA will be holding a rally in March. Oh, we got to have a march. Next, on Saturday, April 6th, starting at 1 p.m. at the Minneapolis City Hall. Hey, Tracy, are you going? Just asking. I don't think she's going. I got a friend in Minnesota, Tracy, bless her heart. She's a good gal. This event will proclaim the founding of the RCA, a new political party, while denouncing the Democratic and Republican parties. I don't know why. They just appear to be Democrats in a hurry, he writes, based on their platform, which includes implementing a, get this now, 20-hour work week. Wow, I'm suddenly interested. With no loss in pay, an end to unemployment, and a national minimum wage of $1,250 a week and universal health care. That works out, by the way, to a minimum hourly wage of $62.50. Hey, honey, you want to become a communist? Getting a thumbs up over here. The platform also includes the inevitable support for Hamas and nationalizing of banks. Well, I got a question for you, Minnesota. God. Lord, stop this train and let me off. I got a question for you, Minnesota communist. Why do we need you, ladies, boys and girls? Why do we need you, Minnesota communists? Hell, we've already got Democrats. I mean, everything you support, they support. Why are you any better than Democrats? The Democrats want a reduced work week, thus says Bernie Sanders. Well, you know, what is he? What is he technically? I think he's an independent now. But he bills himself as a democratic socialist, and democratic socialist and communists are, they make a pretty decent marriage, I'm thinking. But everything they say they support, I don't know of any Democrat that wouldn't support it. So doesn't the idea of a Communist Party in Minnesota sound a little redundant? Isn't it a little superfluous to have it when we've already got Democrats? Why don't you just join hands with the Democrats? They're not extreme enough for you. They're not radical enough for you, commies up in Minnesota. They're not woke enough for you. I don't know. Knock yourself out. Have fun. I don't think I'm going to Minneapolis to join your march, but best of luck to you, I guess. I don't know what else to tell you. I've got to go from Minnesota down to Texas. Here we go again. I'm sure that some of you have heard that we're still having struggles with this new Texas immigration law, which has been blocked. This appeared in the Texas Tribune hours after the U.S. Supreme Court had allowed Senate Bill 4 to go into effect. A federal appeals court let an earlier injunction stand. Senate Bill 4 allows Texas police, it lets Texas police arrest people suspected of illegally crossing the Texas-Mexico border. A federal appeal court late Tuesday night stopped a state law allowing Texas police to arrest people suspected of illegally crossing the border hours after the U.S. Supreme Court had allowed it to go into effect. I didn't think an appeals court could trump the Supreme Court, but I kept reading, and this is what it says. Earlier in the day, the High Court had allowed the law to go into effect after it sent the case back to the appeals court, urging it to issue a ruling promptly. So the Supreme Court kicked the ball back down to Texas. The appeals court soon scheduled a hearing for Wednesday morning, and on the night before hearing oral arguments, the appeals court issued an order to let a lower court's earlier injunction stopping Senate Bill 4 stand, according to a filing. The Supreme Court earlier Tuesday let SB 4 go into effect, but stopped short of ruling on the law's constitutionality, which has been challenged by, of course, the Biden administration. Stan Vladek, a University of Texas at Austin law professor, said the back and forth is indefensibly chaotic. Yes, it is. Even if that means SB 4 remains paused indefinitely, hopefully everyone can agree that this kind of judicial whiplash is bad for everyone. Now, what is the long and short of this story? It's simply this. This rogue Texas appeals court is saying to Texas law enforcement officials, no, you cannot stop these people and arrest them. Now, I have covered this previously ad nauseum on this channel. And this is what I said that the feckless governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, ought to do. And I'm sorry, but he is feckless. He's a Republican, but I've had it up to here with Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott has been in office, what now, 7, 8 years? I don't know. He's been in there a long time. He followed Rick Perry, who I know served in the Trump administration. So he's been in office, I know, over one term. And the Texans put him back in office. They re-elected him. I wanted Don Huffines, but that's another story. But the bottom line is, Greg Abbott has done nothing but drag his feet on this issue. Greg Abbott could solve this problem in a Texas afternoon, but he does nothing but drag his feet. But this is the solution. Let's just say, for example, that the Supreme Court ruled that Texas can't do anything to stop illegal immigrants from crossing the border. You remember recently they ruled that Texans had to take down a border fence that they had erected. And I said then what I'm going to say again, and it is simply this. This is the legal remedy for this problem. All that Greg Abbott has to do is call the Texas legislature into session, and if they are successful after their deliberations, they could simply vote to nullify. That is with precedent. It is done before, and any state in the union can nullify a decision of the Supreme Court that they find reprehensible, illegal, or repugnant. They can do that, folks. They can nullify what the Supreme Court says. This problem eats at me. I'm telling you, it drives me batty. Because this problem, this invasion of America on the southern border, this could be stopped in an afternoon. It's simple. You just deploy the Texas National Guard with guns. Not like Kathy Hochul does, where she deploys them with no guns. You deploy them with guns. And I got to tell you, I'm just going to lay it on the line. You fire a couple of shots and this problem would be stopped by dinner time in Texas. You think I ought to run for governor of Texas?
I think so.
You think I should? Yeah. One little problem with that.
You're not in Texas.
We don't live in Texas. All right. Let me move on. I got a couple more things I really want to get to. How many of you are members of Planet Fitness? Planet Fitness. I almost joined Planet Fitness. They actually had a really good deal, but I didn't know anything about the story I'm going to tell you right now. There has apparently been a problem, or is a problem, with Planet Fitness, which has resulted in a boycott of this establishment. Growing concerns and controversy surrounding Planet Fitness's inclusive policies have sparked significant debate and calls for boycotts, reminiscent of the backlash against Bud Light for its marketing decision. The gym's policy, which allows members to use the locker room, listen now, that corresponds with their gender identity, has been set at the center of this contention. A standing Planet Fitness policy states the following: if it is confirmed that a member is acting in bad faith and improperly asserts a gender identity, they may be asked to leave and their membership may be terminated. Most recently, Patricia Silva encountered a man in a woman's locker room shaving at a Planet Fitness location in Alaska with underage girls present during the interaction. After posting the video online and complaining to Planet Fitness, her membership was canceled. And the story goes on and on and on. Let me ask you ladies a question. If any of you ladies were a member of Planet Fitness and you walked into the ladies' locker room because, let me be crude for a moment, let's just say you've got ladies' junk, if you know what I mean, and you walk into the ladies' locker room to take a shower or do your business or change clothes, and you found a man who had man junk in the locker room, and he was standing there maybe with a towel wrapped around him or maybe not, and he's shaving, what would you do? Oh, what would you do? Well, I think I'd be calling for the school marm, or I'd be calling for somebody. I'd be exiting the bathroom, going to find a manager and saying, hey buddy, you got a dude in the woman's bathroom. You know, this ain't real complicated. Isn't it a shame that we have to make clear what is obvious by nature? Let me help everybody out in case there's any woke person watching me right now. Men are men and women are women. And do I really need to explain that any further? And when you have a men's locker room, only men go into the men's locker room. And when you have a women's locker room, only women go into the women's locker room. How difficult is this? If I found a woman in the men's locker room, I would make my exit and I'd go be a little tattletale. Sorry, but I would. I don't want Marina in the bathroom when I'm in there, for heaven's sakes. Unfortunately, there's another girl who lives here who loves to go in the bathroom. She's got 4 legs, you know. But I digress. We have lost our ever-loving, cotton-picking minds, folks. We just don't have any common sense anymore. Women's locker rooms are for women. Men's locker rooms are for men. Why is that so hard? Men, you've got your own locker room. Why do you need to go to the women's locker room? You don't. And Planet Fitness takes the side of the perverts, of the woke crowd. So much for me joining Planet Fitness. It was a great idea while it lasted. Let me conclude I'm going to have to pause the video. Be right back. All right, last story. I hate to tell you all this, but I have some bad news about this channel. This channel has gone to the birds. That's right. A man named Michael McKay writes the following. Listen to this. Everyone knows, by the way, a little lighthearted story to end on, but this could help you. So listen, I'm here to help you. Everyone knows that music can set the mood. And it's no surprise to most of you that music can also positively affect our health. Much research has been done on music therapy to reduce anxiety. But I had no idea that listening to birds singing could have such an impact on my health, and not just mental health, but positively impacting our entire physiology. I have a YouTube link on my computer I regularly listen to, which is about 8 hours of birds singing. There are lots of these kinds of links, and I picked one with a hilarious title that my friends and wife think quite suitable for me. It's called Relaxing Your Dog, and I recommend it. It works for me. There's many benefits of listening to birds singing, such as this is from noiseproject.org. There are benefits. Listen now, this is going to help you if you're stressed out especially. Here are the benefits of listening to birds singing. Number 1, listening to birds singing can reduce stress. Number 2, listening to birds singing can promote positivity. I need a little of that. Number 3, listening to birds sing can increase productivity. And number 4, listening to birds singing can improve your observational skills. Bird sounds make people pay attention to their auditory surroundings and focus on one sense at a time, as birds are heard most of the time while walking through nature. He says if you'd like to take a deeper dive into how birdsong impacts our overall health, and particularly brain health, and slows brain aging, I need some of that. I recommend an article entitled Music and the Vagus Nerve. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Vagus. Vagus. Music and the vagus nerve, how music affects the nervous system and mental health. So there you go. Are you stressed out? Do you need to increase your productivity? You need a little attitude check? Well, start listening to birds singing. Hey, I'm going to try it. I think it's a good idea. What about you? Last time we went camping last weekend, there were a lot of birds in the campground. We were sitting around just watching the birds. Maybe birds can help us all improve our mental outlook and our productivity. Maybe we ought to give it a try, right? There you go, folks. Give me a big thumbs up on this video. I'd really appreciate it. And give me a subscription to the channel. Subscribe to the Triple T channel if you have not yet. Comment down below about all the outrage we talked about today. I would greatly appreciate that. Go out there and have a great day and listen to the birds. This is Trailer Trash Tim, and I'll see you soon.